The other way to connect multiple LEDs is using a series circuits. Let's explore that next. In the previous lesson, we used parallel circuits to connect multiple LEDs to the battery. As we were pondering before, is there another way to do this? And we call this series circuit. So series circuit, you basically put these multiple LEDs in series and then just connect the positive of one of the LED to the negative of the other LED and chain them together. And this is what is basically called a series circuit. Again, as before, without entering into the details of what are the electrical differences, let's start building the circuit first to get an understanding. And there is a little surprise at the end of this circuit building exercise. So let's start right away. As before, we'd start with a little bit of the copper tape, the sticky side on the top, so that we can stick the battery. And by now you should be much more familiar with this exercise. So we started that. We put the battery, the negative side of the battery on the bottom. I'm reusing the LEDs from the previous exercise so that the LED legs are pre-bent. You could either reuse LEDs or you could start from fresh LEDs. Make sure that the negative of the second LED connects to the positive of the first LED. Next, I'll complete the circuit by connecting the copper tape to the positive of the second LED and connecting it to the positive of the battery. By now we should be a little familiar on how to change the direction of the copper tape as needed. Basically, this involves folding the tape in the opposite direction and then folding it back to the direction you want to go. The circuit is almost complete now. The only missing piece is that the connection between the LED legs, and to make that connection you just stick a piece of tape between the LED legs. And the surprising bit that I mentioned before is that this does not light up the LEDs. I'm just making sure that the connections are right and making sure that the LED legs have the copper tape sticking properly. Even with all those verified, the LEDs are not coming up. So what's going on? Before I explain electrically what's going on, let's just add one more battery to the mix. Let's stack the batteries one on top of each other. So the negative of the second battery goes on the positive of the first battery. So that's what I'm doing right now. So I'm just stacking those batteries and connecting the tape. Now, when you make sure the connections are all right, you should start seeing that the LED should light, both LEDs should come up. So I'm just verifying the connection, making sure it's right there. You might also have to do this because it's a little tricky to get both these batteries connected properly. So once all the connections are good, you'd start seeing that the LEDs come up. I'm just fiddling with the connection here just to make sure that all the connections are good. Okay, after fiddling with it a bit, I got the connections right, and now we can see that both LEDs are on. I just turned off the light so that you can see the LEDs coming up properly. So before we try to understand what is going on electrically, let's try to make sure that we have the circuit diagram correct so that will be useful in the end. So this is a circuit diagram we started with, and we didn't have the LEDs glowing properly. So we had to add additional batteries to the mix and basically stack them together so that we can get the LEDs to turn on. But why? Why did we need additional batteries in this case compared to the parallel circuit case? Let's learn about that in the next lesson.